So Christine, where did you come from with your transplant?
Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, okay.
Yeah.
I have cousins live down,
Help me,
well,
where are we?
what is it? Dallas and what's the other one next to it?
Forward.
Forward, then forward, yeah. Okay.
Oh, do you have the new one too, or just?
I have the agenda for today.
Okay, oh, you got the meeting minutes, yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, perfect.
So thank you.
See, 16, 17, 17.
Monica, we have 7 o'clock.
We do, don't we? Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Richie McConnell.
John Manson. Mike Burke. Sandra Gerlach,
Here.
Tom Stewart,
Yes.
Monica McHugh,
Present.
Emerita Keys, Christine Fobb. Here.
Mike, are you on? Mike Burke.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Is Mary Ann? She was going to be. Oh, there she is.
Here's John.
Hi there.
Good evening. Hi.
So we recognized in the minutes that Mary, John, and Mike are also here.
So do I have, if everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Okay.
And do I have a motion and a second? To approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign? Right, so let's start on the wind energy.
Excuse me, Monica.
Yep.
Could I make a motion or suggest that we not have these meetings over 2 hours?
Yes, you can.
Please,
This is why we're not gonna have any public comment tonight. We're gonna go through it.
Okay. Fine, I did not.
All right.
Hey, John, if it gets to be 2 hours, you make a motion to adjourn and I'll second. How's that?
perfect.
Okay, here we go. Love it when we have a plan.
And I'll do the. So you know it's 9 o'clock.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we want to start at the top, back at the top of my list? Because I went in and made some changes to the draft. Just minuscule, hardly, I mean, you know, wording, whatever, not much. If you want to start there,
Yeah,
Monica?
let's start there.
Okay. All right, so we did address that we're gonna be going into the battery energy storage systems you know, right behind this or along with this, but we haven't made any forward motion on that yet because we're still trying to get through this. So we were talking about notification,
It's the same.
notification from project boundaries. So I made that change, I do believe, page 4, section 3.
You wanna scroll the,
Yeah, thank you.
Page 4.
Yeah, that was my page 4, section 3
Oh,
notification.
yeah, in red there. And proof of landowner consent.
Maybe it got moved to a different page. Where did you find it? I'm looking at a
At
different
the
sheet.
bottom of page 4.
We've got that number 8, you've got in red. Were you
Okay.
thinking about something else?
No, yes, probably. That was one of it.
Okay,
Um,
that's the first one that's red in my
Yeah.
book.
okay, we'll just keep going and we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, so page 5, section 3.
Oh, did the county attorney come back on,
I do have, I did, no, I don't have a response on that, but we did try to go, I took part of it out just to follow our Board of Adjustment processes.
okay,
However, I'm gonna just jump around a second. We had a question from the gallery about intimate domain last time around.
yes.
And so I did reach out to the county attorney, and we cannot write an ordinance to take away an eminent domain for a utility.
Right.
So, will it come into play? We don't know that it will. We don't know that it won't. You know, and it would be more for the power lines and, you know,
Right.
running, running,
Transmission line.
yep, transmission lines underground between a tower site and an actual transmission line. So, but yeah, so we cannot regulate that. Do we know it's gonna be an issue? No. Okay.
Right?
All right, so now I'll get back on task. We talked about, blade color and de-icing, and you guys are like, nah, let's not worry about that. So we did, skip over that. So we have that on here. So finishes shall be matte and non-reflective. All wax sites, the design of the buildings related to the structure shall, to the extent be reasonably possible, use materials, colors, textures, screening and landscaping that'll blend the wax into the natural setting and existing environment. So we didn't add anything to that. All right, so this is kind of where we got stopped last time. And you guys really wanted time to talk about this and think about this. And that was height. We had not previously built in a maximum height or a maximum total height to the turbines. And there had been some more talk. I know you guys are like, well, maybe we should, so, what? You guys want to take that over, Monica, and discussion about
Yeah,
height?
my personal opinion is to put in a restriction on height. What's everybody else's opinion on this?
Why do they want them higher than the ones we see throughout Iowa? These are proposed to be over 600 feet high, and the others are under 500 feet, I believe.
I think so, and that's my concern, because like I said, the tallest building is in Des Moines, and it's like 638 feet. I really don't want anything close to that being here in Jackson County. What's other people's opinions? What are the current ones that we were looking at? Was there one in Delaware County with a restriction on it?
I don't remember. There are some counties that do, there's some. Well, I understand Scott County is very restrictive, but they're working on redoing their ordinance because they can see there's issues with it. And some of their reasoning behind what they had, my understanding, talking to one of their previous, who's no longer there, zoning directors, was, there was concern with Doppler. Because they are right, their Doppler system's right there.
Right.
It can affect it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and it was close, so, but they're revisiting that.
Okay.
So, or will be revisiting that. Their new director is, that's something that's on his wish list to revisit. But I think someone told me, and I don't remember, now I don't even want to quote it, because it's something really low, and basically it's, prohibited. I think it was 200.
Yeah, I know. That's,
Then you're getting down to where it's gonna be too close to the ground.
Yeah, so, most of what I've been reading and seeing, the new ones are coming in at 600, the newer ones. Talked to a Mid-American representative when I was at a school a couple weeks ago. And the ones that they're refurbishing, they have an extension kit now they can put on and raise it, I don't know, 20 feet, 30 feet. To get more height on the refurbished towers. But I think a lot of the counties are running that 400 and 500 foot.
I'm not opposed to putting something in 400 feet. What's,
Be fine with me.
I would agree with that as well.
So when, is there ever a time that we can adjust this, because as things sometimes tend to go, they get bigger, they get bigger, they
Yeah.
get better.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna take a contrary opinion on that too, so go ahead.
We can revisit our ordinance as needed.
If newer technology comes along and they're
That's-
able to
and
make
that's-
that
it's-
higher.
That's exactly my point, is we don't know what the technology is gonna
Right.
bring for
Well,
efficiencies and what the industry standard is gonna move to. And
So
so
we-
I don't think I can support a 400 or whatever feet.
We don't want to be restrictive. If that's what it is today,
Mhm.
everything seems to get bigger.
right, well, and that's what I was trying to say with what they're redoing, what they're doing on the west side of the state with Mid-American. They started off with this tower, and now they've added, they're adding more height to them
Hmm.
with the refurbished. And they did ask us to consider language, those of us working on ordinances. They had to consider language with,
Those-
asked us to consider language that would allow greater height as technology changes when they're being refurbished.
Yeah.
But then again, you've just opened yourself back up to a 600 foot now. If, I don't know, it's up to you guys, but I knew where you guys were thinking, about possibly a height limit, but then leaving it open, so when they come back in 20 or 25 years to add a topper to it and make it higher.
Right, I mean, we could start with something that's
Yeah.
reasonable, but just not have it be, I mean, if we have to go back and ever revisit it to make it higher, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
How much higher though? I mean, if we leave it open, wouldn't that be sky's the limit type of thinking? That would
No.
be my concern.
No, my thinking is, they would have to get some kind of variance from the Board of Adjustment. If they wanted to go higher. I don't think what we ought to do is set in stone that, they can only go 400 feet.
I think we should start with that, and then if they want to go to the Board of Adjustment, they can.
And I'm okay as long as we have a mechanism that they can go higher than that if they have good reason. I'm not an engineer. There might be good engineering reasons that, they need to go higher again.
I agree with what Tom's saying, but I'm just saying that, the other thing is if the industry standard now is 500, we shouldn't set it at 400, I don't think.
Industry standards, all of 500, I do believe, and pushing that 600.
Well, then you were talking 400,
I
but
think we should still go 400 because the terrain here is very different than what it is out in western and central Iowa. Yeah, I mean, I really do.
We have hills, they don't.
Yeah, that's right.
You, what's that?
We have hills and they don't.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, they're gonna be putting them on top of hills, there's this, you know, no doubt about that, if they even decide to come to Jackson County, there's nothing saying. At this point, we don't have anything imminently, you know, coming our way, but. If they would have, you know, a proposal would be for the tops of the hills.
Right, and I don't want a 600 foot.
Okay.
What's the reasoning that they wanna go 600 feet here versus? all
Well, they
of
might not,
Iowa?
we don't know that we don't know that, we just know that out there, they wanna go higher to catch some wind.
I think they wanna go 600 here.
That,
Here,
that
Yeah.
was my understanding too.
That's correct.
well, then it would be to catch more wind.
And the taller is, there's probably better efficiencies.
Well,
I'm still opposed to 600 feet.
I like 400, but
So what would this scenario be if we say 400 and they're already coming in wanting 600? It's not that they're going to say we're not going to build here. The option will be they have to go before another board. And then what's that board going to say?
That would be the Board of Adjustment and, you know, they're gonna be asking for a variance on top of the, or a special exception on top of the variance.
so if we.
Or the special use, conditional use permit, yeah.
If we get. Let's say we set it at 400. And the company comes in and they're looking for a variance. And let's say there's 10 of them that go before the Board of Adjustment. We can always come back and say, okay, the Board of Adjustment is getting all of these requests. Now we need to revisit it.
Yeah, and that's, I've learned with, well, let's just use, we've talked about making changes to setbacks in certain parts of the county, let's say Leisure Lake, which kind of died, but someday we're gonna bring that one, we're gonna resurrect
heard
that.
that before.
Oh, I know, I know. I know. Anyway. You can tell when your ordinance has problems.
Right.
And we were able to see that problem in Leisure Lake.
Yeah.
And, you know, where we need to make adjustments actually to make, yeah, the setbacks.
Yeah.
Smaller and not greater. But, yeah, but the whole idea is hopefully to write an ordinance that you don't have to change. That does fit more scenarios than not.
Well, if the industry standard is 600 and they're interested, if they would come to Jackson County in 600, then we're just asking to have it go to the Board of Adjustment and set it at 400. If you set it at 500, they might be able to engineer that into a plan. I mean, ultimately, I'm not gonna make a motion on this.
The standard is not 600 feet, Tom, it's 500 feet.
What I'm saying is,
They're
What-
getting taller.
But there aren't any in Iowa, is that correct? There aren't any 600-foot towers in Iowa.
I'm not convinced about that.
Are the ones with the extension?
I don't think they're tapping 6. I can get more information on that.
well, the question I've got then, they threw 600 out to you, but they're not really interested in Jackson County at this point anyway.
At this point, I'm told no.
Okay. But they said if we did come in here, we'd be looking at 6.
I've heard that number is, yes.
Okay. All right. Well. I would move that, we set the standard at 500 feet, and if they need to go higher than that, they would need to go in front of the Board of Adjustment.
The tallest land-based wind turbine in the
Hey,
United
this
States.
isn't the first time you sent
But we don't, I know.
It's happening to me all the time, don't worry about it.
Currently, just using Google real fast. Currently, the tallest land-based wind turbine in the United States is in Adams County. Mid-Am's, energy, Mid-Am Energies wind farm. The concrete turbine is 557 feet tall, including the blade tips. And is 379 feet from the ground to the hub. It's 100 foot taller than other steel turbines at the farm. You have it?
Have something for.
Okay, Muscatine County leaders are expected to pause new approvals of wind farms in light of a proposal that will include wind turbines of 600 feet in height, that will exceed 650 feet in height.
You should be addressing the motion on the table. If, no, if there's no second, then we announce the dice for lack of second.
It dies for lack of second.
Now you can technically, you can move forward. This is the old FFA and
So there are some being proposed in Iowa that in excess of 650.
But Muscatine is another one that is flatter, obviously, than we are. The terrain is very different. I mean, even out in Adams County, when you're going further west. You know, once you get, even into Jones County, I mean, when you're looking at where we're at. The hills are unique, they're different. I still prefer looking at something 400 feet for us. Just based on the different terrain. I mean, I could be off, but I think that's something that I would rather keep them shorter than taller.
unfortunately you can't make a motion.
I know I can't make a motion.
You see her nudge Christine? No.
I think a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Further discussion?
Yes, is there any further discussion on this?
I think it's unrealistic. I think it's unrealistic, and I think we're gonna be going straight to the Board of Adjustment.
I agree with Tom. If the standard is that 500 feet or above. I mean, we're just making an ordinance that nobody's gonna want.
Mary, have you got any thoughts
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion.
to limit it to 400 feet?
I would agree with that.
Did you hear the concerns that John and Mike had with that?
Yes, I did.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of a 400-foot limit? Say aye.
Aye.
Can you do roll?
Yep, we'll do roll. This one, go ahead, we're gonna do it all.
Christine Pop,
Aye.
Monica McCune,
Aye.
Tom Stewart,
Nay,
Sandra Gerlach,
Nay.
John Manson.
Aye.
Mike?
Mike Burke,
Nay,
and Mary Keys.
Yay.
That's 4-3.
technically, next time you wait to vote, if
Yeah,
you
that's
just try at the end. I mean,
Right.
the outcome's the same.
Same, but
Yeah. So. Cause then
you
it's
are
on.
correct.
Like I said, it's just FFA.
Well, and it's just that our practice here has been to avoid having to go to the next board.
And this is
And-
another hurdle that'll be in place. Another public hearing, where. Yeah, we're gonna be putting a lot on our Board of Adjustment, the way we're doing our ordinance with, it being, special use.
Okay, well,
But
it is what it is.
they'll be hearing them anyway, so
Right.
what's another case on top of a case, right?
Why not?
And that's
Yes, it is.
total height.
It's okay, that's fine, nothing personal.
I'm just gonna clarify, that's total height,
Yes.
including the blade tip, okay? Okay. All right, let's head to the next slide. All right, so, we
Lori,
were, yes, sir?
okay, so on number 11A, is that kind of where we're at? I kind of. We got 144 square foot in there. I thought I saw somewhere else through the ordinance, I can't find it now, that we use a different number there. Like 120 or something square foot, somewhere in the definitions maybe, or something, I can't, I read through it today and I didn't write it down, sorry, but I
That's okay.
think
We
we need
have,
to check it
That's-
somewhere.
yeah, let's look into that. You wanna add a note somewhere to, oh, you're not, never mind, I got the paper notes. We've bounced around so much and made changes. I could have made a change in one spot, but not the other.
Exactly, yeah.
I'll do a word search or find search when I get to the
Okay.
office. I'll ask I'll find out if this is consistent.
Sounds good.
Is it under setback?
I don't
And
remember what it is,
definitions.
Sandra. I don't remember now.
On page 3, possibly.
Yes, bingo. Got it.
There it is, right there, yes.
Yeah, so, I don't remember which one was latest. You guys wanna, 144 square feet is 12 by 12. And remember how we started talking about this? About how some people were trying to circumvent, they
Yeah.
were putting up the hog teepees.
Yep.
So they could have an occupied structure within
Yeah.
so many feet of their neighbor's property line.
Right.
And so we changed it, actually, I thought we had a occupied permanent structure needs to be was the language we were going for.
Yeah, and I think it was 144.
Okay,
Is that,
Yeah, I think it's 144 also.
I
okay,
think it was 144 that we,
Change the 2.
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, we were looking and we were wanting to make sure it said occupied permanent. So it wasn't just something people were sliding around,
Right. Yeah, the permanent part was the main thing.
yeah. Okay, all right, thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
All right,
Yeah, because that's the same thing in number 12 too, 144, yeah. Yeah, that is correct, but it was.
Okay.
Here. Setback.
and I'll change that to also include permanent structures.
Yes.
Okay,
Any permanent occupied structure, right?
yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we were talking about setbacks. We were from property lines, setbacks from occupied structures. The actual physical setbacks. So part of the talk we had talked about was a set height, period. Or, 1.1 times the tower height. But at the same time, or like we had 1,250. So if you have a 400-foot turbine. Well, we're gonna wanna think about this then too. Now that I'm looking at Tom, something else clicked. So, 1.1 times the tower height. So let's say you have a 400-foot tower, 1.1 is 440. But let's say you get that special exception in there and you have a 600-foot tower. And so you're at 660. But no less than, or do we want to have it no less than 2 times the height or 3 times the height of the tower? Well, that's. I mean, you guys think about that. Because you'd probably want greater setbacks.
I think we should keep it at the 2 times the total heights
Okay,
or the 1250.
okay, all right.
I don't know, does anybody else have any opinion on that?
From the property line.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm okay with that, because even if we go to, even if they get a special exemption and go to 600, that's, you know, still 2 times is 1,200, so that
Wow.
would be in that same ballpark.
Right.
okay. And you guys are good with that?
Yeah.
You're not gonna have to vote on that. Okay. Page 7. So.
No,
Um,
it's 2 times over 1,250.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so if they go over 600, and they're actually getting the benefit, yeah. A little less. It's gotta be, if they go over 600 feet and they exceed that 1,250, the 1,250 still.
We would need to change.
so let's say you had 650-foot towers, like they're
Right,
proposing in
right,
Muscatine. That'd be 1,300 feet
Right.
times
Yeah.
2,
So,
but.
but we're saying they only have to go back 1250, so that's why I'm saying we would need to adjust.
No,
Or-
whichever is greater.
Whichever
So-
Whatever is greater.
2 times.
Okay,
that.
yeah, whichever's greater.
So if you're 400, it'd still have to be 1,250.
Okay. All right. So still on page 7, talking about the sound. So just to clean up, you know, the way we all hear noise or, you know, or sounds, you know, like my place, you know, I'm hearing the neighbors, you know, silos, I'm hearing the other neighbors' silos.
I'm hearing noises in my head right now.
Yeah, you're probably hearing silos, right? You know, so,
Mention that one.
is that really noise? Is that really noise or is it more sound? Should we be calling it noise or should we, you know, analyze sound versus analyzing noise? Just cleaning up language here.
Well, if you get technical about it, it seems like sound would be the proper definition.
Yeah.
Noise sounds worse.
Yeah, noise
It does.
sound.
I think
Is-
noise sounds like an annoyance, a certain
Yeah,
annoyance sound,
Yeah, so
rather than a sound.
probably should be sound.
yeah.
Cause you know, I'm thinking of the garage band, you know, it's like, are they making noise or are they creating sound? I know, it depends on who's playing it, right?
Right.
All right,
I have a question on the, any occupied structures change. Why is that not changed in, 12 B? And, on page 13?
probably because your zoning administrator didn't catch it.
Oh, yeah. They should all be
Yeah.
occupied structures.
Yeah, they'll go,
Yeah.
yeah.
We want occupied permanent structures?
That,
Yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
There you go, Mike, yeah,
Yeah.
over 144 square feet.
yeah. Make them all standardized.
All right, thank you. Cause I probably would have glazed right over that again.
No, you wouldn't.
See, you're already earning your pay.
Yes.
Oh, wait, you don't get paid for this, never mind.
I like edit, I just like re-edit and re-carry.
I'll send you my draft.
He's really good at it.
So, all right, so we have that. All right, so going back to page 7 though. Okay. So sound
Yeah, I
and
think-
distance.
yeah, sound.
So, going back to some of the concerns that we had from last month's meeting. Some wanted 0 sound to the nearest property line.
We can't do that.
That's not fair.
No, it's not.
And then two, how do we, my thing is, it's like, so we're treating this different than we would our other neighbor, you know what I mean? We all
Right.
hear
Right.
the neighbors' silos, their grain bins. I know when
Yeah.
neighbors are drying corn. I know when
Right.
they're,
Screaming at cows.
oh, you got to know one of our neighbors.
Never do
You're not my neighbor.
that.
But yeah, so I mean, would we be imposing different standards on this type of build versus other things?
What, do we have anything in any of our other ordinances on noise or on sound?
No, ma'am.
Well, wait a minute, let me rephrase it. We haven't, because most of the time our ordinance have been affecting structures that are built that quote, don't make a sound, like where to put housing developments and things like that. So this is something new
Mhm,
because it will generate sound.
absolutely.
Well, housing developments would have air conditioning units, maybe 50 air conditioning units that would be going, that would make noise. And I looked up today what a 50 decibel rating is, and it's basically the sound of hearing a refrigerator run. That's what I was told, or what I learned.
I have a
So
decibel meter on my phone. We'd be hitting all of that just in this room.
Right. So I think we do need to look at like at the decibels, because, continuous, what is it? What's, I can't remember what the hearing protection requirement for OSHA. There's a set decibel level.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember what it is.
I don't.
I never knew what it was. I know there is one, I just.
Oh, yeah.
I wanna say it's like 80 or 85.
I was gonna say, if I had to take a guess at it, I was gonna say 80 as
Yeah,
well.
I think that's what it is.
85.
Okay, 85. same
Yeah, we
thing,
have our-
85.
Our roof here is like pretty good with
Yeah.
this.
So obviously we wanna keep it less than that.
Yeah, and we had 50 decibels, but I guess the part of it comes, where are we measuring that from?
That was the other part that we've had that discussion with too. Cause I know when we wean calves, it's a lot louder than 50 decibels.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and when some of these grain outfits fire up their dryers and their fans,
Yeah,
it's way more than
It's
that.
way more than that too.
But you guys gotta realize, this is constant. This isn't a 30-day
No,
noise. This is a 24/7 day
Right.
Right, and-
noise.
exactly, and trust me, I understand that. Well, they don't, they're not gonna be run 24/7. They typically don't run 24/7. From what I've seen from my father-in-law's ground. I've hardly ever seen them moving anywhere. Yeah, yeah. And that's true too, I haven't, seen them. What do some of the other counties have for their,
I cannot remember one county that has anything going to a property line. I'm not saying there's not one out there that doesn't, but I have not seen one or noticed one that measures
Well, how do they deal with sound then, or do they?
To the dwelling.
Yeah.
To the dwelling, yeah, right.
Right.
And that's, okay, so then, and I was gonna bring this up, I almost wrote an email on this, because that discussion came up on, you know, do we go to the dwelling, do we go to the property line? And, I talked to Lori about this shortly after the, you know, the meeting, and that, the more I thought about it, and I talked to one of the people that were here that night, who didn't really wanna get up and stick his neck out, because we definitely had a crowd that was going in one direction. But, the more I think about it is, shouldn't it be from the tower to the actual dwelling, or, you know, occupied structure? Mike,
Permanent occupied
permanent,
structure.
help me out, Mike, permanent occupied structure.
Yeah, permanent occupied structure. I agree with what Tom says. I mean, if it's in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere, who cares?
I
Yeah.
can do the argument on that, you know, you have it adjoining a property owner that lives next door. And it's like, oh man, that's the site I was gonna build my dream house on, and now, you know, I can't build in that spot. And
But you know what? It goes both ways.
I agree.
It's like, you know, when you have the farm and people decide to build next to you, and then they complain about the scent.
Well,
Well, you know what?
but,
The farm was there first, and I guess,
and on the other hand on that, I had somebody build a hog building about a quarter of a mile upwind from us.
yeah,
And it was perfectly within zoning that he could do it. I did, you know, I didn't like it because I used to raise hogs and they didn't smell bad then.
oh,
Now I don't raise hogs anymore. I realize they stink.
okay.
But I still raise cattle, but that's
We raised
different.
hogs and they've always
Yeah,
done.
yeah. But anyway, but my point is that you don't, when you're in the country, you don't always get everything the way you want it, you know, because you do have to, and I addressed this last month, is that, you know, property rights are very important to me. I don't want people restricting what I'm doing on my farm within reason, of course.
Right.
You know, I realize you can't do just anything, but, you know, I want to try to protect property owners' rights.
Right. And I agree with that, but again, it's what the other property owner wants, okay, so. You know, if somebody has a permit and they're gonna build a turbine. Then. You know, okay, you were gonna build your dream house, well. Maybe you should have started your house before they
Yeah,
put the turbine.
yeah, you know, I mean,
You know,
they could say I was gonna build my house there, but it might never get done.
right,
You know, people talk about doing stuff all the time. Anyway, my feeling, getting back to the main core of the point, is my feeling it should be from the windmill to the dwelling or the permanent occupied structure.
gotcha.
okay,
Thank you, Mike.
over 144
Over
square
144.
feet for livestock.
That's my opinion. It should be from the windmill to the structure.
I would agree on that.
Okay. And before what you guys had used, it seems like the standard, and I haven't seen. Oh gosh, I've looked at so much stuff, I just can't, but I don't remember anything being any more restrictive than 50. There might be some outliers, but the median is probably gonna be in that 50 decibel.
And I think that's probably what we should look at.
Okay. All right, so I won't make any changes. That's where you guys were before,
Okay.
so. All right, so. All right. We were talking, you were talking about the, 2 times the height away from a dwelling. There was discussion last night, or excuse me, last meeting. To increase that, not by a lot where you guys were, but you guys were batting around a quarter mile, 1,320 lineal feet.
Yeah, and then when we pulled it up on the map, it was.
The quarter,
the quarter.
well, the quarter was better than the mile that,
Yeah.
you know, because that locked down the whole county.
Right.
But yeah, it depends on what you guys, wanted there, you know, just. Did you want to go back and alter that? But that was the number. You guys was batting around. Instead of, you know, so like a 400-foot tower, instead of 440 feet. You guys were pushing that to 13. But that's, I'm just bringing it up because you guys did.
Well, again, it's one thing to go from the tower to a structure out there. Again, as long as we're staying away from boundary lines, you know, from property lines. And we wouldn't be restricting it, you know, as much that way. We'd still be limiting it quite a bit. Now, the person that called me and talked to me, he said in his personal case, because this is the guy that's already, you know, been approached and assigned a tentative lease, and he said that a quarter mile to somebody else's structures would give him some leeway, but a quarter of a mile to the property line would literally exclude his farm. And so he said he could live with a quarter mile to a structure, and so that's just, and he, you know, he called me up and we had quite a nice conversation. He was very reasonable about it, and, you know, he was just concerned about how it would affect, you know, his situation.
I like the property line, but we also have to be cognizant of how restrictive we are and not get ourselves sued, or at least, you know, the county sued over it. And it probably should be from a minimum 144 square foot permanent occupied structure.
We can't do property line on one and
Yes.
sound on. the
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So I
true.
think we should go back to the two.
Permanent.
Permanent, yeah, the permanent structure.
Yeah, and the one thing too, we gotta just kind of delineate from, so the setbacks is always going from the tower to the property line.
Right.
And
Right.
then the other one would be, tower to dwelling.
Yes.
But notifications, remember, we're doing a quarter mile from,
The property line,
The
which I
property.
still think.
or should be a mile from the property line.
I still think we should do the notifications that way.
Okay.
I don't have any trouble with that. People
Okay.
should know what's going on.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
I
So,
agree. I agree.
okay, thanks, Mike. And you guys can,
I just want to say that in the last few weeks driving around, I've noticed, it looks to me like, and I haven't, you know, just going down the 4-lane highway, looks like a lot of these towers are closer than a quarter of a mile and permanently occupied structures. I don't know, and that was, the two places I noticed was one in Delaware County and one, I believe, was probably Story County. And I thought, boy, those towers look really close to the farmsteads, what I call farmsteads. So, and I haven't been able to go measure them or anything, but it just looks closer to me.
we could measure online. They use Beacon too.
Oh, yeah, I'd have to.
So if
find
you knew
it.
your location, I could drop a tape on it for you.
Yeah, I don't remember where it was. I can just tell you one was in Delaware County and one was east of Nevada, so I presume that's still Story County.
yeah, that's still Story County.
Yeah. I know the field you are,
It was right on Highway 30.
Yeah,
right?
Can the property owner sign that he doesn't care if it's that close to his structure, even if there's?
Yeah, we have
Good,
some.
good point, Sandra.
They can waive
So
that.
that might be why,
Yeah, and they might be the property owner themselves.
That's
Right.
Yeah.
and they chose to do that.
Mhm, that could be,
Exactly.
yes, and there are waivers that,
Yeah.
that even the next door neighbor can sign.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right,
if
because
that was the case.
if there's, you know, if there's some advantage, you know, given to them and they say, yeah, no problem, then,
Mhm,
okay.
mhm.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
just want to, we want to protect the person that doesn't want, yeah.
Mhm.
so did, do you want to keep those setbacks the same, the 1.1 or 1200? To property lines, or did you want to,
I think we should do it to the occupied structure.
okay, so did you want to go to the quarter mile on the occupied or not? Or just keep it at the 12, whatever that was,
We were discussing that too. How many feet was the quarter mile again?
13,
1350, right? Yeah.
oh,
right around
1350? Oh, I-
1320, I think,
What is it, 5,260?
5,280.
80.
okay, so
I knew it
yes,
was close,
so this 1320 is your quarter,
13.
Yeah.
So we're just adding, we're tacking on a little bit extra there if we can go that, I mean. Technically, I think that the 1250 would be enough, I'm not gonna kick too much if people wanna, you know, do the quarter mile.
We could go back and change it 1250 on everything 1320 and just leave it that way all around. That way you're quarter mile on everything.
Well, it would be good to have it standardized one way or the other.
Yeah.
okay. So is 70 feet a big deal? It will be.
To somebody it will be.
Somebody it will be, but I think the quarter mile. What's everybody think on that?
The quarter
mile for.
And that's a
Yeah.
visual. Most people can
Yeah.
visualize a quarter of a mile easier than throwing out.
Right.
Then you could almost get rid of the 1.1 times total height statement too. Really,
Well, that's to the property line.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's a different standard.
well, I mean, it's basically the same thing as the 1320. They'll never get to the 1320. I mean, it could, if they're 700 foot tall, but
So a 400-foot tower, 1.1 is 440.
To the property line.
Yeah,
but we're going whichever is greater, so greater is 1320,
oh, true.
right?
So it's
Yeah.
quarter,
So we're always gonna be at 1320.
okay,
Not always, but
so,
99% of the time, probably.
so tower to the property line,
No, the tower to the property line needs to be 1.1 or else we're losing what we gain.
we just
Yeah,
lost
we
it.
would just be, yeah,
Cause I was just going, looking at a map in
Yeah.
my head and you're sitting in the middle of a, quarter or
Yeah.
quarter and
you don't have any room.
you don't
I
have
see
any,
what you mean. Okay,
So on
I
the
see what you mean.
setback.
I agree with you. I agree.
okay.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah,
All right, so the setbacks to the property line. 1.1
yes.
Tower height.
tower
Yeah.
height,
I understand.
okay. Okay, and that's property line.
Yes.
Yeah, let her be.
All right, but setback to the nearest inhabited structure of over 144 square permanent structure, 144
Would
is
be, yes.
1320.
Correct.
Sounds like a radio station.
I don't know where that would come from.
Uh-huh.
We were talking, this takes you back, John will probably remember this, we were talking about, John Henderson, and he used to have that, radio program on Saturday mornings, RFD 1320.
Okay, so I think we've covered that. Yeah,
I think so.
okay. So my next question, was on page 9. Letter G.
You guys are the.
Okay. Oh, excuse me, thank you. All right. So. Why do we require visible fencing and then allow for a consent form allowing construction without fencing? So this is regarding Met Towers. And, see where that actually is on here. That was my question. Visible fencing shall be installed around the anchor points of the guide wires. Landowners must sign a notarized acknowledgement and consent form allowing construction of the turbine and guide wires without fencing as required. So I know we got that language from somewhere else, but I'm not sure it makes sense.
I agree with you.
You agree that it should be, it's okay, or that it don't make
No, I
sense?
agree that it should be taken out.
Okay,
Yeah. Cause if it's on their property, they obviously know where it's at.
mhm. All right, so I can delete out visible fencing shall be installed around anchor points of guide wires.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be something the companies do on their own, it might be
I
their,
think for safety reasons. they
They're
do
probably
that.
gonna do
Okay.
that, but I don't think we should require it.
okay.
I think that's not necessary.
And then, you notice the word shall was there, and then I can delete off landowners must sign
Yes.
acknowledgement, we can delete off all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so,
So what about H then? As far as the fencing. Is that what that means?
No, there was something else that goes with it.
I think it was the reflectors and the plastic sleeves or something that showed, like the balls that are on the guide wires.
Yeah.
So I think that is relating to that. Exception to this section may be made for meteorological towers where concerns exist relative to spray applicators. Okay, let's go back to the whole
You know
section.
what? Oh, part of it is with the, B, wind turbines and meteorological towers should not be climbable up to 15 feet above ground level.
I don't know if that pertains to aerial applicators, so does it?
No, but that's, I think, where the fencing was coming in for Candy.
Oh,
But I think
Well-
we're okay,
because that was around the anchor points.
yeah.
Yeah, because the fencing was just installed around anchor points of the guide wires. Do
Okay, yeah,
you want me to review that?
yeah.
All right. So we made some changes to J there, also on page 9. And I just have a note here, confirm this is what the commission wanted added. So electromagnetic interference, no wind energy device facility shall be located within the microwave path of an emergency communications tower. Any wind energy device facility shall not cause interference with existing radio, telephone, or microwave signals. If it is determined that the interference is being created due to wind energy device facility, the owner shall take necessary corrective measures to eliminate the interference.
I wonder if we need to add in television signals. People with dishes.
TVs and satellite TV. Yeah, that would be TV and satellite too.
We can.
Yeah,
I don't know that as, I don't know if I've heard that's an issue, but
I don't either, but I just thought about it.
some people are satellite internet as well. Yeah. And some people still use antenna TV too.
we do.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So, you said television and,
I just said,
Satellite? I'm sorry,
yeah, television, satellite or television reception or something.
okay.
I don't know I don't know the exact wording, but
I think television signals would be included in that, and I think,
there you go.
so with microwave or television signals. Or radio, telephone, comma, TV or microwave signals, television signals. What about the satellite internet? Oh, yeah, the satellite internet too.
Does anyone use that anymore? Most of us are on fiber.
Well,
Ours are satellite. We also have a
You might
DTN
have,
that's
you know,
a satellite.
Elon Musk's DTN. Elon Musk's, what are they called? Starlink. Starlink satellites, yeah.
Okay. All right,
Because I think that's an option.
Yeah, there are places in Jackson County that are or not dead spots, but they don't get fiber.
I used to be,
Yeah.
NBC won't come to my house.
Yeah, well, you know,
they've heard about you.
we make a special exception just so you don't get it.
That's okay, my telephone company's taking care of me.
Good for you.
My electric company won't, but my
Nah,
telephone.
that's
company-
right.
So you
Yeah, those guys are just
Usually
a bunch of
satellites in
sons
there.
of a-
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will.
You don't even
So,
know.
so
I
any,
tried, I really am. I
I'll
really
kind of read what I have, you guys.
keep in mind that we can't serve everybody in Jackson County. So,
So any wind energy device facility should not cause interference with existing radio, telephone, television signals and reception or satellite signal and reception.
Yes, you can wordsmith that.
Okay. And then going on, yeah,
I think
And
you have to leave the word microwave in there, don't you?
yeah, it's in there. That, I didn't add that part,
Okay, okay.
so that'll stay.
Okay.
So,
Signals.
okay. So, gosh, you guys, we're almost halfway through the page that we only got a third of the way through last time.
you got 58 minutes left and then John makes his motion.
Mhm.
Okay.
We'll be done before then. We've only got
Good.
more pages
Wait, yeah,
left.
we're clicking along. Okay, so page 10, page 10, letter G, the comma after non-participating residents does not make sense.
So where we at?
It should come after, on page 10, letter G,
Okay,
or did I already fix that? So it says comma after non-participating residents does not make sense. It should come after shadow flicker.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
The owner of a commercial Wex shall model shadow flicker in a non-participating residence or occupied community
Yeah.
building.
Gotta come after building. As well.
Okay. So after non-participating residents. So remove that. And then after occupied community building,
Yes.
or do we want to change occupied community building of any permanent structure
Yeah.
over 144 square feet?
Yes. The resident should stay.
Yes,
Owner of a CWEX
shall not shadow flicker, comma, and a non-participating residence, comma, or occupied community, occupied permanent structure greater than hundred and forty-four square feet.
By human or
by human,
livestock.
yeah, or animal is eligible for mitigation, yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna create a Word document with that on it and copy and paste it where it needs to go.
There you go.
So anyway, and then it talks about the modeling, the shadow flicker. At the above listed should I do above listed no, previously listed structures. No more than 20, or is our number 20 hours a year? Is that consistent, or did we have 30 somewhere else?
I don't remember.
I will,
Check that one,
yeah,
but I think we wanted 20 and not 30.
okay. Okay. All right. All right, so now on page 10, it also says, okay, we already got that taken care of. Page 10, letter H. Should any residence be any non-participating residence or any occupied structure over 144 square feet? That's on page. Wait, yes, H. So it says, the owner of a commercial WEX may provide shadow flicker mitigation for any residence or occupied community building in addition to the mitigation required under F. So what's the difference?
So the occupied building, that needs to be the structure, the 144 square foot.
Okay,
So an owner of a CWEX may provide shadow flicker mitigation for any occupied permanent structure
Mhm.
in addition to the mitigation required under paragraph F.
So basically, I mean, it's saying they can be nice and
Do more.
do whatever they want,
Yeah.
yeah. They can do more.
Well, it's one for a non-participating and one is for a residence, because F says that,
Yeah, and this one says for any residence.
Yeah,
but
Where we're gonna change it to the, any permanent structure occupied by,
Yeah.
But up there it says it shall provide, and that's for a non one, and down here it says may provide.
but that's for a participating,
none,
which is
Non-participating.
for a participant. F is for a non-participating, so if somebody chooses not to, or they're not picked to be part of this,
Got it, yeah.
they shall,
or even if they were 18 hours, they could still. You know, if it was somebody that's not participating in 18 hours and not meeting the 20 hours of shadow flicker, they could still opt to do some mitigation. If the homeowner, property owner wanted them to. Okay. All right, we can go to page 11. And section. Here. My note says, page 11, section 14, letter I, leaves uncertainty as to how the requirements for mitigation is determined. Did I get to?
oh, no, you're right, yeah, it's under J, or no,
So it says section
14,
14.
which is a shadow flicker, that's correct. And then what number?
Oh,
Or
excuse
what
me.
letter?
Um. I.
Or is it under J1?
Leaves uncertainty as to how the requirements for mitigation is determined.
Oh, that's the one we just went through. Or that, oh, under I, the next, so
Written
it's still on
consent.
page 10.
Written consent from the affected property owners has been obtained, stating they are aware of the WICs, commercial WICs and the shadow flicker limitations imposed by this ordinance. And that consent is granted to allow shadow flicker to extend the maximum number of hours a year otherwise allowed. Uncertainty is how the requirement for mitigation is determined. As to how the requirement for mitigation is determined. It just says it exceeds the maximum number of hours, which we know is 20. This was provided me, that question was provided me by somebody else. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
I think that's, I understand that. Does anybody?
I think it's this one. Because it's, yeah. Leaves uncertainty as to how to determine, excuse me. As to how the requirement for mitigation is determined.
Isn't that kind of determined by the two parties that are involved?
Well, I think for us, it should be the maximum.
It's the other one, Lori, it's one on page 10.
Oh,
There it is. That makes more sense.
we have two eyes. Might have,
Well.
oh, it's different.
Yeah, it's
Excuse me.
different.
One is
Yeah.
1 and
Oh
2.
my gosh, under J and not under,
Yeah,
okay,
it's under, it's, yeah.
okay. And then two, I've changed this around and
Yep.
moved some formatting, and so it changed pages. I apologize. So if shadow flicker mitigation is required, the owner of the commercial WEX shall allow the owner of the non-participating residence or occupied community structure to choose a preferred reasonable mitigation technique, including installation of window coverings or green plantings at the wind energy conversion system owner's expense. The requirement for shadow flicker mitigation is limited to windows which are directly impacted by shadow flicker.
That makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question on it, like, Vicky, who gets to choose the window coverings? And can they be? You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, you just get a blackout shade from Walmart and they give it to you, or is it gonna match your stuff?
I,
I think that's a battle they can fight,
Okay.
yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's between the two people.
Yeah.
do we want to add something if, shadow flicker mitigation is required? Well, we already know it's over 20 hours.
I say we leave that part alone.
Okay,
There's only so much we can do here. And I think if there's any more required, I think there could potentially be litigation, and I don't think we should dictate any more than what we have in here.
okay. All right, so we will leave that one alone.
Are we changing the occupied community structure
Yeah.
to something different?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after we make those changes, we're probably gonna go through and just look this over again to see if that makes sense on an old horse barn. You know, that it's a permanent horse barn that's occupied by a horse. Or,
Oh, for the shadow flicker on the
yeah,
horse barn, when the horse might not, yeah. got it.
We don't care about the horses. Now cattle, on the other hand, is a
Yeah.
different story.
well, okay, or they put their dry cows up there, you know what I mean? Just, we might want to just revisit some of that after we get to a certain point.
Yeah.
Just to see if that makes sense as we're driving the county and, looking at
Yeah.
some of the things that we have out there. Okay. All right,
Okay, what's next?
so I have fixed formatting errors on page 10 and 11. We'll get to that. Space, fixed spacing air on page 12. We'll get to that. We'll send it to Christina.
No, I just had it.
She volunteered.
I added, I don't format.
Oh, okay. So
Format, you edit. Okay.
on page 12, it says number 4. Leaves,
Is that the performance bond?
leaves uncertainty as how to determine the project site completion. The applicant shall be required to hold a performance bond with their contractor builder, assuring that 100% of the project site is completed as shown in the application documents. A copy of the performance bond shall be submitted to the Jackson County Attorney's Office before construction commences as part of the permitting requirements. Well,
I don't think that's up to us to dictate when the project is completed either. I think that that is required of the company that builds it. And if there is an issue, then I mean, obviously they have an agreement with the landowner. Our obligation on how they leave the property is really, is done after the public roadway. So if the contractor builder, so if contractor comes in, builds it, the wind energy company signs off on the project. As far as I'm concerned, it's complete. That shouldn't be something that the county should be dictating on.
okay, and then to just kind of where we are as a county, we don't have building permits. We have
but-
zoning permits,
right.
so that we're not signing off on a project when it is completed,
Right,
because
that's
we're
not-
just,
Right, that's
Right.
not what we do.
right. Okay. So I'm gonna write leave alone, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so page 12. Number 6. There is no option for a property owner to choose to keep improvements such as roadways or driveways upon discontinuation or decommissioning. Yeah, maybe, you know, the property, and I've looked at a lot of aerial photography and took a look at some on the ground when I was driving through Sac County, not too long ago. And those are some great, I mean, they're roads. I mean,
Oh,
they
yeah.
go
I
from
know.
the public
Field
road.
access.
Yeah, the feel it.
They're
So,
solid.
but in the decommissioning plan, yes, we can require them to take it out. However, if they have a decommissioning plan that includes an agreement with the landowner to leave those in, then as far as we're concerned, it's done.
Okay.
So I think that is something that needs to be put in the decommissioning plan.
Like a waiver with landowner to leave certain improvements.
Yeah, they don't want them, yeah.
Well, remove everything except, you know, what a landowner, you know, the road or
Right.
whatever a
Right.
landowner might want. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So what happens, like I heard some of these went down in storms.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what happens if they don't rebuild them and they just let the parts lay?
Talked to a representative of a wind energy company, and there is, most counties have something written in.
So
What-
do we have anything anywhere?
We do not.
Right. do
That
we
is
have-
something,
We need to include, and I know Laura and I talked for a few minutes before the meeting on this. And I thought we should put in that if there's a storm that happens and it's damaged, that the landowner should notify the wind energy company. However, it's like Lori said, if something happens and that quits generating,
I know.
they know what
Like
it
that.
has. So we don't necessarily have to do anything like that. But I think like within 30 days of an event, whether, act of God,
Mechanical.
mechanical, that within 30 days, there should be a plan in place on how to repair or remove debris.
And what if it goes on the neighbor's property?
That's
Um.
what, we've talked about that too, so they would be responsible for that. You know, probably the neighbor's property insurance would probably pick up some of it, and then the property insurance would sue the energy company for, Tom, is that kind of how it works with the Coconut
that-
Valley?
Or can the energy company just come in and say, hey, we're covering this without?
Well, yeah, that's normally what happens is some, I mean, we don't have windmills, but,
Mhm,
you know, we'll take care of it. You
mhm.
know, but it gets submitted to the insurance and, you know, then we're reimbursed, so.
Okay, so basically, from the time of notification of the incident, the owner of the turbines, owner operator, has 30 days to put a plan in place. And what do you want to have, 90 days for completed? I don't know that that's, I think
Oh.
maybe for the cleanup, that might be more, but they might, you know, how people, you have everything.
But I mean, it could take longer than that to fix it.
Right, so that wouldn't be,
So I
but
think
the
for
cleanup,
the cleanup, so if there's any cleanup that needs to be done, then I don't know, what do you,
Well, rather than a timeline, I think, you know, the wording should be something to the effect of, you know, they're responsible for all cleanup and reimbursement of any damages incurred.
okay.
You know, that way,
That'll alleviate anything.
yeah, because, you know, you put a timeline on it, like you say, who knows what kind of,
Right.
as long as they're gonna have a plan and they're responsible for, you know, damages and reimbursements, then that, you know.
but yeah, but you don't want it to drag out for 3 years
Yeah.
either.
No,
Don't we already have something in there about when, if the windmill is not operating for a certain length of
For
time?
1 year.
Yeah,
Right,
for
not
1 year.
1 year, we already do
Yeah.
have something in there, but if there's damage caused by, you know, an act of God, tornado, windstorm, derecho, something like that.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna lay there for 3 years, to be perfectly honest. I think they should have a written plan in place. I'm not sure.
So if it lands on my property and splinters everywhere, and I'm not the owner, what do? I don't want that just sitting there for 90 days.
Well, what if they have a
Well, that's
plan
where-
in place, and set their own time frame?
Yeah, I think that's.
As long as, and that's where the wording I'm talking about is they're responsible for any damages incurred and any reimbursements. So if you're gonna, you know, if you insist on cleaning it up because you want it cleaned up,
Right.
then they're responsible for reimbursing you for that cost. That's where I'm at.
But that's why I agree with you that if we give
Mhm.
them a plan, their plan could be,
It might not be acceptable to you.
right?
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
so,
would say to make it more user friendly to the non-owner than the owner of it.
yeah, but, you know, again, you know, as long as we word it in a way that they're responsible for, you know, reimbursing you or, you know, or whoever, you know, is affected by it, you know, get the wording in there like that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
and,
talking
and
about.
then, you know, so like if it's your yard, you gotta get it cleaned up because
Yeah,
you
you
got
wanna-
kids. But if
Right.
it's your cornfield, it's like, I'm sure they got insurance that's gonna cover my loss of crop.
Well, that's what I'm getting at is too.
You know,
is
cause I'm
you
not
might
gonna
have to-
go in there with a, you know, $200,000 combine and go through fiberglass or
Right,
whatever.
yeah, so, yeah,
Yeah.
they would be responsible for the loss of the crop, and that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I guess I didn't say it specifically, but that's what I'm inferring.
so I'll clean up and damages and losses incurred.
Yeah, and, yeah, And you know, you might wanna get the proper wording, you
Yeah.
know, on that from.
Even though I gotta just bring something up. Just because, and I know Monica and I had this conversation, we had neighbors that had buildings go.
Yeah.
We're all worried about wind turbine, you know, littering up and falling down. But we're not worried about our neighbors picking up their tin. I remember we had a tornado at my
Mhm.
husband, Terry's old farm. And man, their part of that building was 2 miles down the road.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you know, we're not holding our neighbors as accountable as we are this company or these kind of companies. You know, and so are we setting
Yep.
down standards?
No, because
I
all,
like her.
well.
Oh, really?
Most of them.
Speak for
Most
your-
of them.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say.
But you know what I'm
But
saying?
here's the other part of it though. Okay, you think about the railroad. I mean, by God, they're gonna hold them accountable. I mean, I've seen some of those claims and the railroad just pays it off so they don't go to litigation, but regardless of whether they're at fault or not. So if we put in that they're responsible for this, the one thing that I can probably say is that they're probably going to, even if they don't think it's correct, they're gonna pay off anyway, just to keep it out of the courts.
I'm just saying, we don't have a cleanup plan for other buildings. But we do for this one.
Your point is well
Yeah.
taken.
Well,
Yeah.
but you know, here's the other part of it though. Hazardous materials, obviously this is full of hazardous materials. We do have a hazmat plan for the county. So this would fall under that hazmat plan,
We'd have to add it to it.
so. I mean, it should,
Yeah. Actually, I like to have a cleanup plan for the other stuff too, to tell the truth, you guys.
yeah. Doesn't work.
Your next,
If
your
it
next,
signs
word-
up, Shane,
your next ordinance, you guys.
It doesn't work that when you like.
All right. So. We made note of that. I don't know where we're gonna add it yet, but we'll get it added, okay?
Yeah.
So I'll get back to. Okay, so we talked about keeping improvements. So page 13, let's see if it's still on 13, section 1, letter C. Under.
Instead of
Noise.
neighboring inhabited dwelling.
Yeah, we gotta do, that was my question.
Yeah,
Should we change it to occupied structures over
Yes.
blah, 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 blah?
yes.
Okay,
All gonna be dreaming that.
I know, right?
Citing that in my sleep.
Okay. All right, and same thing, letter C.
Yeah.
Yeah, changed, that's the same thing, so page 14. Oh my goodness, you guys, look where we are.
I know.
Too bad.
So. Section 8 requires all WECs to be subject to FAA approval and the approval of Jackson County Board of Adjustment. Are non-WECs subject to Board of Adjustment and FAA, or non-commercial WECs? So here's where we talked about before. You know, we can have them check for, to make sure their height, you know, say the guy that's a mile from
Yeah,
the Zwingle and, you know, we're in the flight path. You know, just make sure that's okay. So that's probably still good to just have them make
Yeah.
sure we're compliant with FAA. But as far as Board of Adjustment, part of what you guys wrote in there was to try to make the non-commercial WECs a write it to where I can issue.
Yeah.
And not go through the Board of Adjustment. But then we also had something in there that they wanted neighbor notification of a mile. Well, if I'm approving the permit, we don't do neighbor notification. Because that's only done with a Board of Adjustment or a zoning commission action.
So I thought about this too, like with non-commercial WEX. Typically, they are like the neighbor up by us.
Yep,
They're not that tall.
no, they're restricted to 100 feet
The other thing
or
is,
below.
the other thing is though, I wonder if we want to do that because they're already going to be working with their utility company to get it established.
They're supposed to.
But if it doesn't work, they can't hook it up.
Maybe they're going off grid.
Yeah, I mean, if they go off the grid, who cares? I mean, that
Well,
sounds awful, but I
And then I
don't.
guess the neighbor still cares about whether that tower is there.
I'm
Well-
sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
He said the neighbor will still care about the tower being there,
Oh,
potentially.
But
Okay.
if it's less than 100 feet,
And it would meet, make sure it meets the setbacks of the,
right?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. That's all.
I mean, you know, for these non-commercials, I think we ought to, be more lenient. I mean, I don't get to tell my neighbor if he decides to put up a grain leg,
Well, that's just
that's
it.
gonna be, it's gonna be over 100
100
feet.
feet.
Yeah, and I don't get a say on that if I don't think it's pretty.
That's why, right, or 100-foot flagpole. So this is why I wonder if we should even include non-commercial WEX in here.
have it, well, it can be part of the ordinance. It would be permitted to her.
Yeah.
Cause,
I don't think we should require a permit for it.
we need to require a permit for it.
Why?
I mean, but not a Board of Adjustment action.
But why do we need to require a permit for it? Was one required for our neighbor up there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and part of, okay, let's put it at my house. I'm A1 zone. I'm not ag. Anytime I erect something on my property that's added to the ground, I have to get a permit.
But you're smaller, but you're at 2 acres.
Well, let's say we got the 20-acre guy. Way our zoning ordinance is written, you have to get a zoning permit if you are not farm exempt and
Okay,
you're
that's right.
adding
If you're-
something
if
to the
you're not-
ground.
Yep, that's right, because it's not farm exempt.
So, yeah, because we
Okay,
gotta,
so-
we gotta separate
Yeah, I want,
A1 from farm exempt.
Okay. yeah. Right, if they're a farmer. It wouldn't be permitted.
No, they could just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have a hard time enforcing that.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So that
If you're a
permitting.
farmer, you don't have to get a permit.
Actively. So basically with,
well, but it has to be, something that's for the farm operation, which I would call this definitely for the farm operation,
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
reducing your cost for running,
Yeah.
operating the farm.
really.
Yeah.
yes.
yeah, because I think the company development.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, we're just gouging you. You especially.
I know you're.
So, but yeah, it needs to be a permitted, process. However, I don't feel it needs to be,
I agree.
a
I
Board of
agree with you.
Adjustment
Yeah.
action.
Right, and I agree
They've got
with that.
enough, like you said before, they've got enough thing going on, they don't need to deal with it.
Right. And then to sell the non-commercial WEX, we're looking at the noise not to exceed 50 decibels as measured to the closest neighboring inhabited dwelling.
So
So that's where we're
100,
changing to the
yes.
144 square feet. So we are gonna change that. All right, so, right, yeah.
That'll be so-
Yeah. She just brought up that, so for like the ground array solars,
Mhm.
we can issue that. It's like it was a shed because you're mounting something
Right.
to the ground. Just so you guys know, ground array solar, we do require a zoning permit because you're adding something additional to the ground.
Only
Roof
if
mount?
only if it is like out in the country and you're not farming, so. But if I were to put it up there.
You'd be
We're
fine.
good.
Yeah.
But so I'm putting it on my 2 acres, ground array
You talked
solar.
about,
I need a
yeah.
permit.
Yes.
Right.
But if I add it to my roof,
It's not-
we're not changing the footprint of the house or technically adding in height.
Which, that makes sense.
So, yeah, I'll go through this and look for the notification part for the neighbors on the, non-commercial WEX, wipe that out, show you guys what it looks like.
Okay.
Cause I know we had talked about it, I'm kind of like, oh, don't think that's what we want to do here. But yeah, I'll make that pretty for you guys.
Okay.
And then send it to Christine.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll look over that pretty well and go from there. And then see what it says and.
Okay.
You guys, I'm getting tired of looking at this.
We all are.
I bet. Christina, you're with fresh eyes.
You just, yeah.
So is solar gonna be that much easier because we've just done all of this?
Yes, no, not really.
So afraid you're gonna say.
There'll still be some of the same issues that we're facing with this that will be in front of us.
I don't think it'll be quite as bad as this though.
I don't know that.
Let's cross that bridge when we come to it.
All
Yeah,
right. Is there anything else?
Yeah.
John,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, wait a minute, next meeting.
July 15th.
15. Yeah.
That's 7 PM
Yep.
here.
And then are we diving right into solar? Or do we have to give this
Gotta
another
finish
go?
This one.
Oh, we're not done with this yet.
Okay.
We're not ready. And then we'll probably have to do another, are we gonna do public input next meeting?
No.
No?
I want to get through,
Okay,
I want to see what this looks and the closer we get
okay,
to the finished product.
okay.
Yeah, let me
So
rephrase-
potentially,
let me rephrase my question. When we get done with this, then are we doing solar? Are we doing battery? Are we doing them together?
we'll do them together and
Yes.
technically, if we would have known what we were doing, you know, I'm part of this equation, I don't, you know, we would have done, battery and this at the same time.
Yep. Okay,
All right, so we have a motion
and a second.
and a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for Mike and Mary too.
Welcome.
Wow.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Aye.
you.
You too.
Good night, yeah.
Bye, Mike.
Good night.
So does this mean there will not be a September meeting?